A terrible warnings emerged in the U.S. media that a second Trump presidency could enter the dictatorship. A second Donald Trump presidency could shift to the dictatorship? A sudden dystopian warning allowed America to speak about the possibility of the U.S. elections less than a year. The former Republican former president, who was affected twice in 2024, is dark scenarios as to what happens if the Washington Post, New York Times and Atlantic occurs in a few days. Grim forecasts came from best Republican Trump critic Liz Cheney, who said that the country was sleeping at dictatorship and weighed a third-party presidential run to stop it. Together, they draw a gloomy picture of an angry but more disciplined Trump, which is then first spell in the White House, will take revenge on his perceived enemies, and probably trying to remain in power beyond two-term U.S. border. 77-year-old Trump answered the warnings by making them smile in a typical style. We're closing the border and drilling. 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 First-day President Joe Biden, who was behind Trump in the surveys before the painful 2020 competition was repeated, said that warnings support their claims to defend democracy. But we can't let him win, he said. Biden mentioned a more violent language in Trump's campaign and said that his opponent described his opponents as insects, comparing him with Roman Emperor Julius Caesar, who caught him. He says that neither the U.S. Constitution nor Supreme Court can prevent Trump from becoming a lifetime president if he wants. Kagan wrote if Trump escaped from hearings met when was trying to raise 2020 elections, try to give power illegally and had won next election, was actually above law, could get rid of anything. The New York Times analyzed the ways that second period of a second period could reveal darker President Trump. Under the New York Times 2017-2021. Trump. He talked about autocrats with admiration for decades and probably packed public service with loyalty and said he would follow the Ministry of Justice to destroy rivals. In scenes reminiscent of a dystopic film, Trump said he would establish immigrant detention camps and use the army against protesters under U.S. rebellion law. Atlantic magazine, in the meantime, is dedicated to the number of January-February 2024 with a note of an editor entitled A Warning. Some of most terrible prerequisites came from Cheney, the daughter of former Republican MP and former President Dick Cheney, and against Trump, a pariah at party. Trump will try to stay in office beyond 2028, no question, he added on January 6, 2021 by the fans trying to overthrow Biden's election victory. Attack on Capitol was just an application run, he said. Trump is already on trial to prosecute the 2020 election result. And prosecutors said on Tuesday that evidence is determined to stay in power at any cost. The language has returned in recent months. While immigrants described immigrants as